Oh, to be a cat and not have to worry about the things that are going on in the world right now. I have two of them. Black, for obvious reasons. Folks just came upon me this morning to make a quick video and say that everything that's going on in the world is a device of man. The conflict you see, the response to the conflict we've had here, the mandates, all that kind of stuff. These are all the actions of men. And so when you look at a perfect day, look at that cat who's just looking at the sunshine that's rising. Just soak up some nature. Understand that there's many forces at work in the world. Forces that really enjoy when you've got anxiety. Like the idea that they're putting you in a state of anxiety. And people fall into the trap. You'll notice how everything's a fad. I mean, 2 months ago we were arguing about aspects of COVID, from the mandates to whether the vaccine was going to kill you or not. And now it's all nicely swept under the rug. And just like that, this situation will get swept under the rug as well. But things are cumulative, meaning that you ever notice that a calm man, it takes a lot to get them angry? Or a calm woman. But over a period of time, if you challenge them enough, or if you cross their boundaries enough, and they have no way to diffuse, it's a natural reaction just to become furious or to have that angry thing. And again, I look at Christ in the temple. Before Christ cleaned to the temple, maybe the 2 weeks previous, he'd noticed a lot of behavior that just progressively made him more and more furious. And that was the icing on the cake. And you see that in the Ukraine right now. Again, if the trucker situation taught you anything, it taught you that the media lies, because you know how in Parliament calling out swastikas and anti-feminists or misogyny, and you can look it all up. You know what I'm talking about. But then the truth of the matter was, these truckers are laying flowers at the feet of the officers. You can't lie on Tuesday and not be a liar on Thursday. So all of the information you're seeing from the news, this is contrived stuff. I don't know if you remember, there previous to the invasion of Iraq, way back when, one of the pretenses to get people riled up is they had a young girl. It was at a UN meeting or something. You can look this up. But she went to talk about how the forces at the time had gone and were killing babies. Anyway, the point is that that clip was put all over the place. But the reality was that it was proven to be a staged actor. And, and this has been done through the course of history. One of Hitler's major moves was to burn the Reichstag as a perceived act of terrorism, which allowed him to bring in the Emergencies Act in Russia. And isn't it interesting how Trudeau here brought it in? Of course, there's repercussions, because our society has not been co-opted to the point that there aren't still enough strong voices And love it or hate it, the internet is actually a great tool from the standpoint of keeping some of us sane. Because we can talk to each other without having to communicate through a newspaper, which is heavily edited. So even me taking this video right now, as I'm rising in the morning, how's my morning look, right? Anyway, the point I'm making is that you don't have to be in a situation where you have to have a lot of anxiety over this thing, because all this is going to happen whether you want it to or not. And yes, you can pray for Ukraine, but pray for Russia too, because above and beyond the media, if it's exactly the opposite, that's important consideration. Because, for example, the media reports on the truckers, the truth was it was exactly the opposite. Is that true with with all the reports about COVID and all that kind of stuff? Well, my stance is yes. Or just think critically. The legacy media, the value of them is greatly in question when you consider how, as compared to independent journalists, they're so often widely out there. It's a known fact that Richard Nixon says, until people see it on TV, they don't believe it, which means the other side, or the subtext of that statement is that they can put whatever they want on TV. And so, whether it's the fake moon landing, or it's or giant mountains made of steel and concrete falling to the ground with the equivalent of a pop can full of gas being thrown at them. Come on. And so just pay attention to the things that are going on right now. There's definitely levels of propaganda that are being issued. And again, it's all part of creating a narrative. But think carefully, make observations about this, because as you know, as you may have observed in your life, let's pretend you know someone who loves getting drunk once a week. Maybe when you're kids, they get drunk once a week. And then as you get a little older, they're getting drunk 2 nights a week. And then it's 3. And then before you know it, they're getting drunk every day. You see, dysfunctional behavior never stays in one place. This is why empires rise and they fall, because also progressive and building behavior, it's hard to be progressive and building and not want to. There's a certain, if you're a good quality person, there's a certain satisfaction you get building something. But make no mistake, it's easier to drink a 2-4 than it is to run a marathon. So, like the Bible said, sin is a lot easier than the other side of that. And here you have a situation where Russia is, could it possibly be because all this demonization that's being laid on Russia, because they're doing the thing that's necessary? Is that possible? As I've mentioned, look at Putin. Here's a guy, he's got a healthy family, he's got 2 daughters. He also has a small child that's not spoken of much, because he did get divorced from his wife because he is a younger woman. You have to appreciate that. And just like King Solomon, Putin gets women. Women are throwing themselves at Putin all the time. And it just stands to reason, because he's the most powerful man in the world. But he has a young child as well. But he's very level. Again, all you have to do is watch his numerous speeches. And yes, they are in Russian. But his body language is very focused. He's very clear all the time. He doesn't do any double speak. He doesn't say one thing and change it the next day. And of course, the media here is going to tell you that there's issues in Russia, but his popularity ratings there are higher than any president has ever been in America. And yes, he is president for life, but the greatest civilizations in history were always run by one guy for a long time. So just pay attention to that. Especially if that one guy, Alexander the Great, is not called Alexander the Great because he wasn't great. But even Russia is subject to the cycles of time, which is why, 80 years ago, it was a socialist hellhole, not unlike the path that we're heading on right now. It's a deep topic, but going back to the reason I decided to pull out my camera, just be steady. Be planning. Don't be worried, but be planning. The beaver doesn't worry about building his dam. He just knows he has to do it. And once it's built, he's like, oh, good. Here's my dam. Now I don't have to worry about foxes eating me or being able to survive the winter. Animals migrate because they recognize that the seasons are changing. And they know that if they stay, they will die. What if the things that we're seeing right now are an indication that it's time for you to migrate? Because there are places in the world you can go where they're in a different stage of history. Do a quick Google search, and I'll put it in the comments below as a link. But look up what's called the 7 stages of empire. The 7 stages of empire are building and conquest, commerce, innovation. It's all there. But the final stage of the 7 to 8 stages of empires is decadence. Decadence and destruction. Of course, you may not consider, depending on your lexicon, you may not consider what our world right now to be ultra decadent, but there's other, if you compare us against, I don't know, some backwater African country, and they looked at our lifestyle, they'd be envious of it, but there's definitely a level of decadence here. But there are places in the world where they've already gone through the conflict part, and they're building now. Just like your grandparents. I have a friend, actually. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a friend. He's a Dutchman. And, 80, 100 years ago, his family was in Holland, had a normal Dutch life, and decided to come to Canada. Decided that there was more opportunity there than there was to stay in Holland. And as a story was told to me, they came and had to work a very subsistent job. I think it was, if I'm not correct, it was digging roots or digging beets or something. I'm not 100% sure, but it was agricultural. But it was a really crappy job. But now, that small bit of sacrifice they made coming from, because the chap who came at the time had a decent managerial job back in Holland. So he came here, made that small sacrifice initially. And now when the people come from Holland to visit, they think we live in paradise. The amount of room we have, the kinds of homes we have, all that kind of stuff. And while it is true, it is a paradise now, it's almost like empires and their progress has been accelerated. And I think that is because, if you look at the 7 stages of empire, basically it takes place over a 250-year period. But it took longer in ancient Rome because, hey, if you wanted to send a message to someone, it took 3 days. But now we can send a message in 3 seconds, right? So I think the progress of time is accelerated, and so the way empires unfold is different as well. Is that a problem? Well, it is true. There are many of us who don't like change. We like the fact we've got our cushy house and our cushy life. But just like you know, when winter's coming, the migrating birds don't go, oh, winter's coming. We don't want to, or we can't leave because that doesn't make any sense. Nope, they just accept it and they go. And so I'm going to do a video shortly, look for it, about the dynamics of how things are going to be unfolding in the next couple of years. It's all in the chart. And, you know, hey, you can stay for the transformation. It's fine. You know, there's people who lived in the Soviet Union and had to deal with that. But why would you choose that if you have a choice to have a cold cup of coffee that's a day old or a nice fresh hot cup of coffee? I don't know. And they're both the same amount of effort. You got to pour it and drink it. I know what I would pick. Anyway, stay strong, folks. This is just the machinations of man that have been going on for ever. Have a good day.